Welcome to the Archive Podcast, where we explore the arcs of our individual journeys and the strength of the hive that holds us together. I'm Amy Rost, and I believe that life isn't meant to be navigated alone. Here, we dive into conversations that bring us closer to ourselves, to each other, and to the communities that lift us up. This is a space for real stories, honest reflections, and meaningful connection. Whether you're in a season of transition, seeking deeper relationships, or simply craving conversations that inspire growth, this hive is for you. Because when we come together, we grow stronger. Welcome to the archive. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our bonus episode. I can't believe it. We have completed season 1. And this episode is all about reflections, what I've learned, what is next. And really, it's about so much gratitude because I would not have done this had I waited for this to be perfect. And I talked about this in one of the episodes this season. I would not have done it. I would have really been paralyzed by fear of getting this right. And when I released that, I really am so proud of this season and so proud of the stories we have told, we have shared, and it has really been an incredible experience. And it has me so excited for what is next. So let's actually do a little bit of a recap here because I feel like we really dove into some really important conversations. And I think we were able to see many individual arcs or journeys. And as we saw the individual arcs and journeys, we also saw how the importance of the collective and how the collective really is part of our growth. And it felt to launch season 1 felt like it was just the beginning, and it was us opening the door to have these conversations. And let's not forget, it also required some courage. Courage, I think, for me, the host, to show up and do this. It was so far outside my comfort zone. But also, I want to acknowledge the courage of all of our guests willing to, you know, I only had yeses for anyone who I asked to be on here and to share their stories. And I know some of them said yes, and they were nervous, and it was also outside their comfort zone, but they said yes to showing up for themselves and for you to hear their stories. So that courage, I hope all of you listening can hear the courage it was required to make this first season happen. So I want to go back and reflect a little bit. I want to kind of do a little reflection, sort of, little takeaways from each guest. And if you haven't listened to the entire season yet, no worries. You're going to have lots of opportunity here as we take a little break to go back and listen. Or perhaps if you've already listened, you go back and listen again to see if there's more takeaways. And there were so many great takeaways and lessons. Now we kicked off this season and this podcast with a very dear friend of mine, Carrie Miller, and we talked about sound healing and breath work. And Carrie is, yes, she's my dear friend, but she's also such a talented multimodality professional. And I think the takeaway was that healing it's not linear. It can look very different for many people, and that there are many tools and modalities available, and that breath, sound, and presence can shift everything. And if you ever get the chance to learn from Carrie, I highly, highly recommend it. She is a true gift to all of us, and her gifts have the power to change our lives. So I love that conversation so much. And I think, I don't know if she knows this yet, but she'll probably be back in season 2. We got lots to talk about. And then next was Shelley Hopkins, where we talked about from engineer to life coach. And again, I think this was another opportunity for us to hear a story of, a busy mom, a professional, a chemical engineer, doing, all the things. And I feel like Shelley's story can really, many of us can see ourselves in it. And that maybe, the path we thought we had to take wasn't maybe the path we were going to meant to take for our entire life. And so I think the takeaway was really from Shelley's episode was the reinvention is possible at any stage. And sometimes the most structured paths can lead to really a soulful pivot. And, Shelley is a highly skilled life coach. She brings so much passion, and I love the science she puts behind all of her coaching sessions and programs. And again, I can't say enough that if you're looking for a life coach, to check Shelley out, if her story resonated with you. And then we sort of jumped into a little bit of a cock. So we went international there. Carrie's from Scottsdale. Shelley's from just outside Atlanta. And then we really jumped into a little bit of a local chapter into this season. And we chatted next with Jill Novak. And, Jill, I just recently met. I can't believe we hadn't met before this. I felt like she really was like a soul sister. And Jill talked about, I loved her sharing about her experience, Dharma, what she's doing in her sister science community, Ayurveda, um, really like living in the season and healing our bodies. I felt like it was such a powerful lens. And again, another opportunity that to heal. And here's another set of skills or modalities that may resonate with you to ultimately facilitate healing. And Jill's a Cochrane gal, but I really feel like the takeaway from Jill's episode was living in alignment with your purpose, that it isn't about perfection and it is about remembering who you are, and really finding your path to healing. So, again, another real powerful woman doing great things, and another Cochrane lady. Shout out to our Cochrane community. And then next, let's jump in. We chatted with Carmen Christensen. We talked about confidence, self-love, and leadership. And Carmen's also another one who our paths have sort of crossed, but we actually only connected really over the last, I guess, about 6 months now. And again, I felt like when we met for coffee, it was like we've known each other forever. And the work she is doing, ladies and gentlemen, but more so for ladies, in terms of that self-confidence, self-love, and confidence is so important, and she is so passionate, and her offerings are incredible, that really call in community, really um, make you feel seen and heard. And I think for me, the takeaway with Carmen was, that confidence begins with self-love. And I hope that you really heard that. And the empowerment grows from deep inner work. These two things go together. And so Carmen is another Cochrane mama, doing great things here as a life coach here in Cochrane. And again, I highly recommend you check her out. And I hope, again, all of these women are mamas. And all of these women are truly running businesses that are heartfelt and soul led, and they are really doing incredible, incredible things. And while all of their stories are slightly different, you can really see that there wasn't one way to where they are. Everyone took a slightly different path. And next, we jump to Jillian Gable, and we talked about creativity and healing, which I felt like Jill, we met through hockey mom, another Cochrane mom. And I absolutely loved Jill's story. I loved hearing, not, I loved hearing that there was, from finance to, I guess, to really COVID, and that it really brought that awareness to her that she needed a different path. And I think, we are not, we are living in a time where most of us are not going to work, in the same position for 40 years, 30 or 40 years. I think that's going to be very rare now. Might be a few, but I think Jill's spirit is just, I love her creative soul, like inside and out. And my takeaway from her episode was we are all creatives. And giving yourself permission to create is giving yourself permission to heal. I love creativity. Creativity is part of what I do. I really value creative time. And I think Jill has shown us that when it's deep into your soul, rooted, and it's there, and you have found it has bubbled to the top, and you have found that new path, then anything is possible. Like I just, if you're here in Cochrane, you need to check her out. She's got so many incredible offerings, and creativity really is where we can heal in a unique way. So then we jump a little. We jumped to the West Coast to Sue Steers, and we talked about integrative movement and connection. And again, Sue, she's in North Vancouver, has, I believe, an incredible studio. What brought us together was an incredible opportunity for one of her teachers, and for a studio owner she's a fellow Pilates teacher and studio owner, for a studio owner to really recognize that, that in her team there was someone who could really benefit from a opportunity, and to take the time and really provide a such a thoughtful and heartfelt nomination for her teacher really says a lot about Sue's community and Sue as a teacher. And she's doing so many great things. She also has a podcast. And my takeaway really from her was we talked about this, that the body does, tell the truth, and that movement really is a powerful entry point for healing and reconnection. And she talked about not only like her own journey, but the community she's creating, um, and cultivating, not just with her teachers, but with her clients within that studio community. And I think it's really a beautiful offering. So if you're ever in North Vancouver, be sure to check out Sue, and be sure to have a listen to her episode, and then check her out on her podcast as well, because she really, she is a gem. And then last but not least in this season, we jumped all the way to Leeds, UK, to my dear friend Claire Sparrow. We talked about pelvic health and women empowerment. Oh, Claire is like just such a leader in women's health and the Pilates industry. And she's doing so many incredible things, but I think what I really, there's a few things I took away from that episode. One was like the talking about hard things like pelvic health can still create hope, community, and it can also be part of facilitating maybe long overdue change. The second thing that really, and I've known Claire for a little while, what my takeaway was how she is leading with such conviction and such I want to say really innovation, because she is looking at ways of expansion and community around a topic that's not easy, but she is looking at ways that is really groundbreaking, I think, for, I don't want to say just the Pilates industry, but for health and wellness, because we need more leaders like Claire. So there's a little summary. Like, what an awesome season we have had. We really have had, some incredible conversations, and we've gone international, which I'm so, so proud of. That you've heard these stories of a little from my own local community and the moms in the community that, I get to be a part of, but also the greater community that are beyond borders where, you know, geography isn't that limitation. And it has just been an absolute joy. I do want to share a few things though about what I've learned this season. Um, you know, these, I hope these conversations have changed the way you listen. Um, to podcasts, that you feel like you're sitting with us and we could be having a coffee or a glass of wine. And really, these are the things we're talking about anyways. And now we're bringing them to you, and you're part of this. You're part of this bigger conversation. These conversations for me have really changed the way I listen. I love hearing. I love hearing the little, but yet those big moments of depths of the stories. It's also changed the way I lead, in that, I want to ensure that there's always a platform for people to share their stories, no matter where they are in their journey. And as it comes back to, it's also changed the way I live, because hearing these stories reminds me, just as I hope it reminds you, that no matter where we are in the journey, we're not alone. And showcasing and hearing the stories of women doing incredible things, but hearing how they got there is the reminder, to keep going. And that has really been really just an awesome opportunity and lessons from this season. What surprised me most about being a host of a podcast, I actually like it more than I thought I would. Right? Remember I said it was so outside my comfort zone. I would have never got to this point. Well, I think what I've learned is you just got to start. You got to let go of it being perfect, and you might surprise yourself along the way. I actually really enjoy it, and I'm fired up. I can't wait for the next season. Um, and you know what? It was better than I thought. And I hope you all hear that as well in whatever you're working towards. Maybe like not always think about what could go wrong, but what happens if it was better than we thought? That goes back to the stories we tell us. I also want to talk about the vulnerability still required, the trust in in myself, in my team to make this happen, and showing up even when it was messy. And that is really what this first season was about. Again, part of it was just getting it done, getting it out there, because again, I'd still probably be here reading the first episode notes, trying to create a podcast, if I didn't just say, it's time to go. We've been talking about this long enough. And yes, there's lots of imperfections in each of these episodes. The was one of them that we will continue to get better at, but we have learned so many things. We have learned so much about technology, about recording, about SEO, all the things. But I think the lesson again is even though it was messy, it was totally worth it. And again, better than I could have ever imagined. The last thing is the magic of connection through these shared stories. I think because some of these stories that we are hearing, they're not always that, high comments. And that's okay because where the comments came were when each of you were reaching out, sending a DM saying, oh my gosh, or sending me a voice message. I love that episode. I loved hearing that. There was so much power of takeaway in that. I saw myself or heard myself in that story. And again, bringing it back to we really all are connected. And we cultivate a deeper connection through our shared stories. And I think that is something I am so proud of. These women who showed up and shared their stories, used their voice, and allowed this platform to be a place where they invited more connection. And just so good. Okay, what's next for the archive? Don't worry, we're coming back. We're just going to take a break. This is episode number 16. I can't believe we've done 16 episodes in season 1, and we might drop a bonus one here and there over summer. Stay tuned. But season 2 will be coming. It'll come mid-September. And we are really diving into some themes and perhaps some directions we want to explore as we're going to have 2 more seasons in 2025. So stay tuned for that. I invite you, the community, to fill out our form and submit. If you'd like to be on this podcast. I, would love for you to submit if there's questions that you want me to be asking these women and our guests, and if there's collaborations you think we need to dive into, I'd love for you to share that. But again, as I said, I always want this to be a platform for every voice. And it will never be a platform that it's just Pilates or it's just coaching. I feel like we can't separate. All of it is connected. And that's really the vision as we go forward. We're going to work on some new tech, which I'm excited and a little scared, but we're going to work on some new technology, and we're going to continue on this path and going deeper and having harder conversations that I think, that are being had, but maybe they're not being had and shared on a platform where everyone can be like, oh yeah, yep, we're talking about that too. We're going to go there. So stay tuned for what's to come on the next seasons of the archive. And I really would love to hear from you. I would love to hear a little listener reflection. I would invite you to reflect, on this season. If you've listened to all of them, what conversation or episode resonated with you the most? What arc are you honoring right now in your own life? I'd love to hear that. And you can always um, drop a message. You can send me a DM. You can email me. All those links will be in there to be able to connect. But I'd love to hear what it was for you. What did you love about this season? And really share maybe your favorite episode and takeaway using season 1 reflections, #season 1 reflections. And I really, just want to again circle back to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for listening each week. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for showing up and being a part of this community. And this is just the beginning. And we are going to continue to grow, and we've got big plans. So stay tuned. I hope everyone has a great summer. We'll be back here in September. And yeah, thank you so much for being part of the archive today. I hope this episode has left you feeling inspired, connected, and reminded that you are never alone on this journey. If this conversation resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts, share your takeaways, and tag me on social media, and let's keep this hive buzzing. And don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and invite someone you care about to join us. Until next time, keep honoring your arc, leaning into the hive, and showing up for yourself and your community. Because together we are stronger. This is the Archive Podcast. See you soon.